He's known for various work in science fiction, action, horror films, such as an android science officer, Bishop in the Alien film franchise. He was the second one, that was Aliens. Ed Harley is who he played in Pumpkinhead. I've seen all the Pumpkinhead movies. They are entertaining, and that's as far as we can go with them. And Frank Black was his name in the television series Millennium. So Lance was born in Manhattan, New York. His father was a Norwegian merchant sailor and boxer named Icewater, who spent most of his life at sea. All right, his mother, a waitress, struggled to raise him and his brother, leading to his spending part of his childhood in foster care. His parents divorced when he was 2, and when he was 7, his mother handed him his birth certificate and said, "You'll always know who you are," then pushed him out of his home. Okay, glad that didn't happen to me. He didn't actually leave till he was 12, as he was physically assaulted by family members. He said he had enough of his home life. "I got bludgeoned a lot. Different people, that's just how it was." On one occasion, there were 2 alcoholic uncles who tried to persuade, this is him talking, tried to persuade me to take methadone and then take part of a staged car accident for the insurance money. Growing up, Lance had a reputation for getting into trouble, and even spent time in a children's home. And after he left school, after completing first grade, and was illiterate until the age of 30. So I guess that helped him. He served in the Navy and found work as a muralist, as a laborer on ships. Huh. I wish I could see some of them. We don't have any of those murals. His first theater work was a set designer, which that kind of all goes together, and received his first acting role. This was when he taught himself to read, sometimes after he graduated from the actor studio and began acting in New York City. He had small film appearances, followed by roles in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, The Right Stuff, and The Spawning, and then came the film Aliens. Lance continues to produce art. He works mainly with clay and has been since 1960. He co-wrote his biography, Not Bad for a Human, The Life and Films of Lance Henderson, as well as horror story the horror story that takes place in a mountain town in Colorado. And that was called To Hell You Ride. Doesn't have to do with Telluride. Anyway, a 5-issue comic book from Dark Horse Comics. The show Millennium ran from 1996 to 1999, and it was created by Chris Carter from the X-Files fame. And Lance plays an ex-FBI agent, Frank Black, now a consultant with the ability to see inside the minds of criminals. And Lance, well, he had an upbringing to give him some practice, didn't he? Lance Henderson has starred in over 80 films and numerous television shows, such as Cagney and Lacey, The A-Team, Tales from the Crypt, The X-Files, just to name a few. He's been said that Lance is like a wolf who might gobble you up, a cult favorite, an intense and versatile actor. That's in quotes, but I can't tell you who said it. But anyway, Lance had 3 Golden Globe Award nominations and received the Life Career Award from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, to name just a few. And speaking of naming, we are going to name a short list of Lance Henderson's films. Now, he was not a big star in some of these, but, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, directed by Steven Spielberg, starred Richard Dreyfuss, Francois Truffaut, who actually was kind of playing, what's his name? He was playing that guy. And I don't know why I can't think of him. I read his books, and anyway, Aliens. But here is Close Encounters, which we all know. This is a soundtrack, music by John Williams. Iconic picture there on the front. Of course, Aliens. Now, Aliens was James Cameron, and to me, that wasn't half the movie that Alien was, but it was a completely different type of movie. But very successful with James Cameron and all those who were in it. And starred Sigourney Weaver, who has been in all of those. Pumpkinhead, 1988, director was Stan Winston. He was Winston was special effects artist who's done so much work, and he made his directorial debut in that series. Dead Man, 1995, was directed by Jim Jarmusch, who we've talked about quite a bit. Stranger Than Paradise and things like that, and starred Johnny Depp, John Hurt, and Robert Mitchum. And I guess we just don't have Robert Mitchum singing Calypso handy right now. But, you know, we've always tried to show that because that's a real standout. And then the movie Fallen, which was directed by Viggo Mortensen and starred Viggo himself and Laura Lindley.
That was Heineck. Heineck was he?
No, what? Not the French guy.
Ballet.
Jacques Vallée, that's right.
Sorry.
Truffaut actually was playing Jacques Vallée, a real live human who is still alive and well, and a UFO and everything, you know, scientist. He made his millions in computer sciences, but one thing I just love that Jacques Vallée said was that, you know, if we're going to write everything off, all of these UFOs and things off simply to visitors from outer space, that's awfully dull compared with all else that it could be. And I kind of agree with that, although I do think it could be part of it, but certainly not all of it. And have you started watching The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch again, which came on for a third season on Tuesday nights on the History Channel? I have always been really intrigued with Skinwalker Ranch, and of course read that book, Hunt for Skinwalker, which is, you know. Anyway, that's for another show. George Knapp, etc. But that's for another show, although a very, very interesting subject.
In fact, I just read that George Knapp is going to be interviewed by the man that bought Skinwalker.
Oh, so the new owner of Skinwalker Ranch, who is Brandon somebody who's part of the new series, is going to be interviewing George Knapp.
I'm not sure if it's on the show.
I'm not sure if it's going to be on the show, but maybe it will be. It should be, because George Knapp has played such an important role in that. And so has, that other guy?
Ryan Skinner.
Ryan Skinner, yeah. Anyway, look that stuff up. Highly recommended. Anyway, Raymond Bailey was born May the 6th. That would be today, in 1904, and he earned his wings in 1980. And who is Raymond Thomas Bailey, I asked? He was an American actor, comedian, Broadway stage actor, film and television actor, and a name that you may not recognize, but you recognize his face. Raymond is best known as playing banker Milburn Drysdale in the TV series The Beverly Hillbillies, and he was a great example of the phrase, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And that's kind of what I do every Friday afternoon, is I keep trying. And who knows, maybe we'll make it one of these days. But let's start with a more current picture. Well, I'm not sure about current, but you know what I mean. And there he is, fairly recognizable, I would think. Don't you think? I think. Okay. And there is a very dramatic headshot, as they would call it in the industry, but definitely younger than the banker man. Okay, Bailey was born in San Francisco, and when he was a teenager, he went to Hollywood to become a movie star. He found it was harder than he had thought, and he took odd jobs like day laborer at a movie studio in the days of silent pictures, but was fired for sneaking into a mob scene while it was being filmed. Maybe he had some acting to do in there. It would have been better. Anyway, he had no success, then went to New York City, which was not any better. Although New York's a lot different than out here, and I love both places. He began working as a merchant seaman and sailed to parts of the world, I think I'm supposed to be saying here, including China, Japan, Philippines, and the Mediterranean. He was docked in Hawaii and worked on a pineapple plantation and began acting at a community theater and sang on a radio program. Now, maybe that's the key. Do you think I should start singing right now? And that
No.
wouldn't make my... Okay, so he went back to try Hollywood in 1938 and began getting big parts in movies and a character in the series The Green Hornet. After serving in the war, he was cast in Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Tales of Tomorrow, Gunsmoke, and many others. And a lot of other roles and TV shows followed over the years, including Perry Mason. Of course, who hasn't been in Perry Mason? His film roles were Sabrina with Humphrey Bogart, Picnic with William Holden and Kim Novak, Vertigo with James Stewart and Kim Novak. What do you think is the best Hitchcock film, or the masterpiece amongst masterpieces? I think most of us would probably settle on Vertigo, but it's not always the easiest to watch. It's pretty tough in some cases, but it really digs in. Also love Rebecca, which he did with Selznick, and that was the first thing he did in this country. So, and of course, that was the movie that won Best Film of the Year that year. But Stewart was also in Tarantula with John Agar. And the Beverly Hillbillies ran from 1962 to 1971. The show was nominated for 7 Primetime Emmy Awards and 1 Golden Globe Award for the Best TV Comedy Show. And here is a list of Raymond Bailey films. I don't know whether Tarantula, I know we've got, but it's in this section here. And I love Tarantula. I mean, of all of the John Agar movies, that's probably the best. It's part of this group. And look at that picture of John Agar. That's as strong an acting as he's ever done, which wasn't much. But that's just me. But I find a lot of the films Incredible Shrinking. That's also on this. On this little grouping is the Mole People. Oh, I've got a mole person out here. No, he's in the other room right now. Okay. He's usually sitting on the desk here. Incredible Shrinking Man, Monolith Monsters, which is pretty cool because it shows these rocks being built up like crystals. They get up to 100 feet tall, whatever, then fall over, and they're taking over the world. And Monster on Campus, which is pretty funny. But that's, anyway, sidetracking there. Tarantula was 1955, directed by, guess who? Jack Arnold, who we've talked about so many times, with John Agar and Leo G. Carroll. Picnic, 1955, was directed by Joshua Logan and starred William Holden, Kim Novak, and the film won 2 Oscars. And there is the soundtrack. As I recall, the main theme was pretty famous on here, right? And this was a used one. It's got writing all over it. Oh, $24. And that was back when. Okay. Well, there you go. The Incredible Shrinking Man, 1957, which is Nassanelli's favorite science fiction film, I think. Is that correct?
One of them, yeah.
Anyway, and that is pretty cool. And, of course, it shows fighting a tarantula there, but it's a lot more philosophical than that. But so be it. Grant Williams was the main guy in there. And then one which I don't remember seeing, The Space Children, 1958. Again, director was Jack Arnold, starred Russell Johnson, the professor on Gilligan's Island, Johnny Crawford, Mark McCain in The Rifleman, Jackie Coogan, Charlie Chaplin's the kid, and who knows what else, and Sandy Deschner, the child wandering the desert in Them. Oh, how do you like that? And here is a very colorful and great looking poster. Now, I wish I'd seen the film. Maybe I still will. We don't have a copy anywhere, do we?
No.
Maybe we'll look for it. We'll look on the streaming stuff for that. So the film was released as a double feature with the Colossus of New York. And the brain was created by special effects artist Iviel Burks, who used $3,000 of neon lights to create its glowing effect. Burks worked on special effects for the Ten Commandments, but also miniatures for the filming of War of the Worlds. And I mentioned Larry Albright earlier in this telecast, who did a lot of neon work. One from the Heart, he did a lot of those little buildings with miniature neon on it. It was real neon. He lit up the mothership for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I did see in his workshop long ago, because the Smithsonian, which had it, sent it back to him for reworking because it was not built the first time as something that was going to last forever, but they wanted it to last. And I think I mentioned on the show a time or two that if you took a really close look at the model, which was, I don't know, 3.5 feet-ish across, say, of the mothership, there were little things like R2-D2, little plastic R2-D2s, a bunch of little plastic VW buses, all kinds of things that from a distance looked like, you know, space hardware. So there. So who else was born on May 7th? That's tomorrow. Excuse me a moment here. Anne Baxter. She came into our world of existence on May 7th, 1923, and she flew out of it in 1985. So not that old, but so anyway. Anne was born in Michigan City, Indiana, the granddaughter of architect Frank Lloyd Wright. And her father was an executive with Seagrams, so they knew how to build and put things together like buildings and hangovers. And when she was 5, she appeared in a school play. At age 10, when she attended a Broadway play starring Helen Hayes, she was so impressed that she declared to the family that she wanted to become an actress. Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. And let's throw in some pictures, although I'm quite sure you already know who it is we're talking about. Anything? Anybody? And there she is, and I don't know, this could be from Ambersons. It looks like the maybe the kind of dress. Anyway, there she be. Speaking of magnificent Ambersons, which we're talking, there is a scene from Magnificent Ambersons. Joseph Cotton and Baxter and what's his name, who actually committed suicide, but was an amazing actor. And he was good in this, especially good in Strangers on a Train, right?
Oh, Robert Walker.
Robert Walker. Just, I don't know. I can't understand anybody.
That's all about you.
And here is another great, I mean, she was in some great films. All About Eve, which is a real stunner. And you can recognize a couple other people there. George Sanders and Betty Davis, or Bette Davis, whatever. And who is, I forgot his name. Him.
Oh,
But he's very familiar. And we might as well just take a look at her as Cleopatra.
No, she was in
I'm
Ten
sorry.
Commandments.
Like I said, 10 Commandments. I get history mixed up. I get it mixed up between the future and history. But there, who did she play in 10 Commandments?
Nefertiti, I think.
Nefertiti?
Nefertiti, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think.
Because Cleopatra was supposed to be pretty ugly, but really knew how to manipulate things. But anyway, there she is. So as a student, she studied with Maria, I pronounce this all the time, Ouspenskaya. How do you pronounce the name? Because I see it all.
I think.
Ouspenskaya, that's it. Ouspenskaya, the Gypsy Woman and the Wolfman, and so many other things. A great actress. Anne was cast in a play with Katharine Hepburn in Philadelphia Story. At 16, she tested for the role of Mrs. De Winter. Wow. In Rebecca, which we just mentioned a little while ago. But director Hitchcock felt she was too young and cast Joan Fontaine, who was 22 years old. And that worked out really well also. Not that it would have been much worse, but probably more believable with Joan Fontaine. And soon secured a contract with 20th Century Fox. Several films then came her way. In 1942, she starred in The Magnificent Ambersons. And we probably spent, I don't know how much time watching that, and even more time looking for it the last couple of days, because I know I've got it on Laserdisc anyway. That was directed by Orson Welles, and there's a whole lot more story to that. It was cut down, and Orson Welles went to work on a government project in Buenos Aires, I think, and while he was gone, the studio butchered. Well, according to Welles, they butchered the film. It still turned out to be one of the best films ever made, but yes, it would have been better.
It was Robert,
Robert Wise did the butchering, but he was paid to do so. In other films, well, he was the editor from the beginning. In other films, she starred with Tyrone Power, Fred MacMurray, Claude Rains, speaking of the Wolfman, and William Holden and Clark Gable, to name a few. Speaking of the Wolfman, anybody ever stop to think about Claude Rains, how tall his wife would have been? Claude Rains is pretty short, and the Wolfman, what's his name? Lon Chaney Jr. was really tall.
Yeah.
So the wife must have been 10 feet tall, I guess. Anyway, in the 1960s, she appeared regularly in dozens of television shows such as What's My Line, Batman, Alfred Hitchcock Hour, Ironside, General Electric Theater, Wagon Train, and Dr. Kildare. And she starred in 50 films, and she was nominated for 2 Oscars and won 1 for Best Supporting Actress in The Razor's Edge, as well as winning a Golden Globe Award for the same performance. It's been said that about Baxter, she was often a sympathetic heroine. I'm not sure how sympathetic she was in All About Eve, but yet she also had a gift for creating irritating villains. In 1986, the Anne Baxter Memorial Scholarship was presented to a chosen student by Gregory Peck and James Brolin in support of the Otis Art Institute. And here's a short list of films, and we'll try to get through them before our break here. The Magnificent Ambersons, which, like I said, I can't find right now, but, definitely worth watching. Orson Welles was the director. That was his second big one. Starred Joseph Cotton, Agnes Moorehead, and received 4 Oscar nominations. The Razor's Edge, 1947, directed by Edmund Goulding, starred Tyrone Power, Gene Tierney, 4 Oscar nominations and won one of them for Best Supporting Actress, which would have been Anne Baxter. All About Eve, 1950, directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and starred Bette Davis, and George Sanders. We showed you a picture of that. Nominated for 14 Oscars and won 6, including Best Director. The Ten Commandments, or as the History of the World, Part 1, what's his name? Yeah, well, you know, I mean, Moses came down with 3 tablets, just about to say that there was 15 commandments, dropped one and said, oh, there's 10 commandments. So anyway, there you go. And we still have 10. So that was 1956, directed by Cecil B. DeMille, starred Charlton Heston, Yul Brynner, and the film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards and won 1 for Best Effects. The Blue Gardenia, 1953, was directed by one of our favorites, Fritz Lang, starred Raymond Burr and Richard Conte. And, well, here she is looking through the doorway here. Featuring Nat King Cole. Okay. Nat King Cole, a great one. I don't know, do we ever talk? Yeah, we talked about Nat King Cole and his television show and all the other things that went along with that. But that is that one. And then we've got a few honorable mentions here, which we'll go ahead and throw in 1 or 2, and then it'll be break time. Orson Welles, and again, we have him an honorable mention because we've talked about him so much. We've had lunch with him here on the show at Musso and Frank's, and you remember that was, what did I have? Oh, I had lamb kidney saute, but that was before I had a kidney removed, so I don't know whether I would do that again. I probably would. I like lamb kidneys. But in the meantime, we'll get back to Musso and Frank's after the break. We have to take a quick break for, I believe, the news and some other things like that. So don't go away. Stay tuned, and looking forward to having you back in just a couple of minutes, a few minutes. Take care. Bye-bye.